We're inside the GSN newsroom today with Jamil Sader, the CEO of Monumental Minerals, which trades under the symbol MNRL. Welcome, Jamil.
Hi, Guy. Thanks for having me on today.
My pleasure. So, Jamil, last time we talked about your Mexico rare earth project, the GEMI project. Today, I would like to focus on the lithium brine project in Chile. Can you give me a bit of an overview of this asset? What's there and what are your objectives with it?
So this is a project that is in the Lithium Triangle in northern Chile. It's in the Andes, or the high Atacama Desert. The project is at about 4,500 meters above sea level. It's about 80 kilometers from San Pedro de Atacama, the community of San Pedro de Atacama. Mm-hmm. At this point, we are in a joint venture agreement with Lithium Chile. The details of the deal are 1.5 million Canadian spend over 3 years on exploration and 1.5 million cash over 3 years to gain a 75% interest.
I want to get into your partnership with Lithium Chile a little bit later. Right now, let's pull back a bit. I think most investors are aware that the explosion of electric vehicles has caused a massive demand spike for lithium. Can you give me a bit of a current overview of lithium demand, the price charts? What does it look like from your perspective?
Well, Guy, in the last 10 years, the price of the spot price for lithium has gone from approximately $7,000 per ton of LCE, lithium carbonate, to about $70,000 spot price. So, tenfold increase in the last 2 years. And this appears to be driven very much by the automotive industry.
Yeah, it's interesting, EVs, it just seemed to happen so quickly. I remember sort of 2 years ago, you'd be like, oh, are you getting one of those? Does that make financial sense? To now the point where people are like mocking me because I have a gas car. Like, okay, give me a chance here.
Yes, and that's driven partially by governments that have implemented either carbon caps or it's also driven by the consumer. And right now, hey, when I go outside to look at the price of the pump, it's $2.22 a liter for gasoline in Vancouver. And I think that's actually driving a lot of people to EVs as well. And of course, you can't have an EV without having a lithium battery.
Historically, the lithium from brines has been extracted through evaporation, and it takes a long time. My understanding is you and Lithium Chile are assessing a newer, quite radically different method of extraction called DLE, direct lithium extraction. Can you teach me about DLE and why could that be an important part of your story?
In my opinion, it's a considerably better option compared to what's being done in the past with the evaporation. The reason for that is, first off, is that you don't have to wait 12 to 18 months before you're able to take some of that lithium salt precipitate out and harvest that. You're producing a sellable product, lithium carbonate, from day one. So if you have a project you're setting up, you immediately can generate cash flow. The other aspect of that is, of course, the environmental aspect. A lot of these DLE technologies, they work with a process that strips the lithium out of the brine, but doesn't do anything else to the brine. So there's no chemicals added. There's nothing. The only thing that's been done is you're removing the lithium. And then that water can be re-injected into the aquifer. So you're not impacting anything. And I think that's a really important, really important part of the story.
I understand there's another mineral there called cesium. Can you tell me about cesium? What is it? What is its value? What does it do?
Cesium is associated with lithium quite commonly, but not at the concentrations that we've seen at Laguna Blanca, and especially in the sediments. So in the sediments, we're seeing concentrations up to about 700 ppm. And I'll tell you why that's really relevant, is because a gram of cesium metal, so this is just the metal, refined metal, sells for nearly $100 per gram. If you think about cesium as a salt, it sells for about $120 for 50 grams. So let's say cesium chloride. So per kilo, you're looking at about $2,500 per kilo. So it's not a cheap metal. 90% of it is produced from one mine. It's called the Tanko mine in Manitoba. That mine is currently owned by a private Chinese company, or as private as you get in China. And 100% of that concentrate is shipped to China. And cesium formate is used in drilling muds or drilling fluids for the oil and gas sector. It's used because it's a non-toxic alternative that is very effective at preventing blowouts, lubricating drill bits, and so on. But the interesting part about it is that it's actually worth enough money that oil companies don't own it. In most situations, they rent it or lease it. And because they can recover up to about 80%, and then they just pay the difference and then send it back to be cleaned and reused. So it's a very, very much a high value metal. The other aspect of it and the other use of it is in 5G and for the Internet of Things. So what it does is it helps to keep all these little Internet of Things, whether it's little sensors in your car or little sensors in your house or your thermostat or whatever it happens to be, keep them all in sync in terms of time. And so those are the two main uses of cesium. So we see this as an additional potential resource in addition to that lithium.
I want to learn a bit more about your partnership with Lithium Chile. What work have they done on the property already?
To date, Lithium Chile has collected about 250 surface samples across the salar and across the claims. This is really to just get a very broad indication of where we think that these brines are upwelling or coming to the surface. They've also conducted a TEM or electromagnetic survey. This is really key because it helps us see where the saltiest water is. And so where we have the saltiest water, typically we've got the highest lithium.
Chile as a mining jurisdiction is quite interesting because it's obviously what we would call a mature mining jurisdiction. They depend and have for a long time very heavily on resource extraction for their economy. Yes. And without it, they will be broke. And they know that. And so the copper mining and the other resource extraction seems to click along very well. At the same time, they have a lot of elections and they seem to turn over their government very frequently, and there always seems to be controversy about that. So I'm interested, from your perspective, you've had some boots on the ground. How are you finding it as a jurisdiction, as a place to operate?
So I've been traveling to Chile for the last 15 years. I've probably made about 30 trips there. The Chileans are very proud that they've got the strongest economy in Latin America. Yes, there has been a change in government recently to a more leftist government. I don't actually see much difference. I think that this government is more focused on providing more social programs and more of a social net for those that are less fortunate compared to the previous government. But I don't see them trying to stifle foreign investment and mining. I don't see that happening.
Jamil, what are your 2022 exploration milestones for Laguna Blanca?
In the very near term, we're looking at conducting a little bit more geophysics. So what we know right now is we know where that, as I mentioned before, we know where that saltiest blob of water in the aquifer or brine in the aquifer is. But what we'd like to know is depth of basin. So we'll be drilling as soon as possible. I'm kind of expecting that we can drill by the third quarter.
Jumping ahead to the point where you are extracting product commercially, how would you generate power out in the middle of a desert?
We're in one of the sunniest places on Earth as well. Mm-hmm. It's sunny almost every day, and there's a constant wind that just does not stop howling.
That is interesting because the the knock that you hear, which is legitimate knock against solar and wind, is that it isn't always sunny and it isn't always windy. And it sounds like up there, it is always sunny, except at night. And it is always windy, even at night.
Absolutely. I can't think of any better place on the planet for those types of energy generation.
The venture market often has a boom and bust cycle. And, I've been through quite a few of them with, graphene, cannabis, blockchain. One of the interesting things about, raw materials for electric vehicles is that the cycle is probably just beginning. This is not going to be a 2-year thing or probably a 5-year thing. It'll be a 20 or 30-year thing.
To me, whether it's rare earths or whether it's lithium, it's simple supply and demand. And I just don't think at this point there is the supply to fill those demands.
Thank you very much for your time today, Jamil. I look forward to continuing to follow this story.
Well, thank you very much, Guy. I really appreciate your time today.
Bye-bye.